Oh, yeah, I felt so bad for the mom of the two children who went missing. Like it's classic example of wife who's not good enough for her rich husband. Like rich husband hates his wife. She's only living for her children. She is an alcoholic. She is most likely on Kool-Aids, Quaaludes.
Hi, hello, welcome to I Got Bored. My name is In Vargas, and it's been a while. If you're one of the 10 people who have been following this page since its creation back in 2019, hello, why are you still here? So glad that you're back. If you're new, nice to meet you, glad you're here. I literally created I Got Bored after a teacher bullied me so hard that I had to quit high school journalism in my senior year. She was a bitch, so I created this channel to basically rival all of the videos that the high school journalism YouTube channel was putting out. So I was putting out very 2019 style vlogs and news style videos to just basically compete with them. But then I went to college and my drive to create long form content completely died. So even though the hate fire still burns inside of me for that woman, I got bored, just fell to the back burner. But now it's 2026. I'm literally obsessed with booktube. I read so freaking much. I talk about the books that I read to the people in my life that I love, and they literally could not give a single fuck. So I figured I would just bring back I Got Bored and talk about books because my 9 to 5 is completely unfulfilling and I need a new hobby. So this video is basically an introduction reintroduction, and I could just spew a bunch of bookish fun facts about myself, but where's the mystery? Let's let that unravel over the coming videos. Instead of doing that, we are going to be talking about all of the 2026 bookish challenges that I am embarking on this year. There's a lot. So right off the bat, every year I set a numerical value of books that I want to hit before the end of the year. Everyone does this. It's not new. I'm not creative. My goal this year is 50. I feel like it's completely attainable based on how well I did last year. I know I'm going to hit 50 easy peasy. I do count audiobooks as reading. That's the first hot take you're going to learn about me. I do believe that audiobooks are reading. However, I am trying to consume less audiobooks this year because last year I consumed more than 50% of my yearly goal just as audiobooks. And while I do count them as reading, I like the numerical value of books that I finish at the end of the year to represent how many times during the year I stopped moving, stopped doing other things, literally just focused on my hobbies. When I do audiobooks, I am working out, cleaning. I work in a bakery, so I can literally pop in my headphones and pump out 2 audiobooks a shift because I work 10-hour shifts. So I just feel like the quality of my audiobooks aren't as high as the quality of the books that I read physically, if that makes sense. So my goal with the 50 bucks would be to read all 50 physically. If there's 1 or 2 audiobooks sprinkled in there, that's totally fine, but I would like the majority of the 50 to be books that I read either paperback or Kindle. Now, in addition to the 50 books that I'm reading this year, I do have 2 very specific challenges that me and my best friend Priska have created, and that's where the issues are going to arise. Each challenge has its own very specific set of rules, and even though these rules are literally figments of our imagination, I uphold them like law. I don't break my rules. The rules that I have established for these challenges, they're locked in. Reading challenge number 1 is something we like to call bookish bingo. It's where we read 25 books across 24 different genres. Priska makes the bingo card every single year. There is a free space in the middle, so 25 books, 24 genres. This is our second year playing bookish bingo, and I failed miserably last year. I did so freaking bad because I forgot that the bingo card existed after the first 2 months. And fun fact about me, I do not delve away from thrillers and horror very often. It's my comfort genre. It's what I read most. So December 30th, 2025, when I remember that Bookish Bingo exists, I'm trying to plug all the random books that I read throughout the year into these genres. And it's just I took some creative liberties. I took a lot of creative liberties. I failed. I did bad. I did really bad. I also had a goal of doing everything for bingo as physical books, no audiobooks, and it's mostly audiobooks. So we will not be repeating that mistake again this year. This year, I'm updating my bingo card any single time I finish a physical book, and I'm putting a picture of that book in every single genre that I think it would fit in, and then replacing them as I go. And I'm always keeping the genres, like the squares I have open, in my brain when I'm picking like my on deck books. Like I'm I'm locked into completing bingo correctly this year. In general, the rules for bookish bingo are: the book must be started and finished in 2026. It must be a physical read. No audiobooks. None. All 25 books must have been read physically, Kindle, paperback. And you can't use a book for more than one square. You can use books from the same series across multiple squares, but one book, one square. We also have more specific rules for certain squares, so I'm going to look down at my notes and read off just all of them to you, because we got really specific on some of these boys. So along the top, we have fantasy romance BIPOC, where the main character is BIPOC, and that plays an important role in the story, the fact that they are BIPOC in some way. Middle grade or young adult, that can be any genre, it just has to be middle grade or young adult. And series, where the goal is to finish the series. So whether you've read books 1 through 4 and you just have to do 5 and that finishes the series, or you're reading books 1 through 5, just as long as you knock out the whole series. On the next row, we have LGBTQ, where the main character is LGBTQ and that plays an impact in the story some way. A reread, any book, any genre. Speculative fiction, which is like an umbrella term for fiction that has elements that couldn't exist in our world. Nonfiction and sci-fi. The third row includes pure mystery, not thriller crime, because there is a thriller crime square. This is like codes, riddles, something to solve, not whodunit, murder, body, if that makes sense. It's like more like Nancy Drew as opposed to like Good Girl's Guide to Murder, because that's like solving a cold case. It's more like Nancy Drew, like who stole the diamonds, that kind of thing. And then book talk / social media hyped. That one is always a fail. Free space, because it's bingo. Dystopian, and short story, which means anything less than 10,000 words. Fourth row includes weird fic, which is actually a new subgenre that Prescott told me about that I don't completely understand, but it sounded cool, so we added it. It's basically a blend of horror, sci-fi, and fantasy, but there's no cause and effect to the weird that you are experiencing. So it's not a virus caused a zombie outbreak. It's just like zombies have always been there. Zombies exist. Zombies are there. Zombies are weird. They're there. They exist in this world. Yeah, it's basically just the hardest square to like wrap my mind around. It's very much like if you see it, you know it's weird fic. I've already got my weird fic square like filled out, so it was the first one that I read. I'm done. I knocked it out of the park. The whole point of the genre is that it like breaks the reader's sense of reality, basically. So it's like a combination of a bunch of different genres, and then also breaks your sense of reality, and also there's no cause and effect. So that's weird fic. Next we have slasher, which is a square that I am very passionate about. I am a stickler for slasher. The slasher book must follow the rules of a true slasher movie. The chase, the kill, the weapon, the final girl. It must have all of it. If it doesn't have one of it, it's not a slasher. It's something else. It's an insult. I'm very passionate about slashers. It is my favorite genre, especially summer slashers. I do a summer slasher series every summer, and I failed miserably last year as well. I read basically the whole point of summer slasher series is I read books that claim to be summer slashers or just slashers in general, and then I judge whether or not they actually are. And last year was a lot of no's. A lot of no's. But this year I have a lot of good authors lined up, a lot of good books that I had my eye on last year that I didn't get to read that I think will knock it out. So I already have my slasher pick lined up, but that's the one that I take slashers very seriously. Then last on the row, we have dark romance, horror, and lit fic, which used to be our classic square, but me and Prisca quickly learned that we don't like classic. It's not that we don't like classics, it's that we both really have to be in the mood for it, and if the classic doesn't hit, it does cause a reading slump. So we just went broad lit fic. Last year, I think I got 2 classics in, The Virgin Suicides and Flowers in the Attic. Both of them reading slumped me for like a month. It took me a month to like read both of them, and then they reading slumped me. I just couldn't. It's not for me. And then on the last row, we have adaptation, which can be book to media or media to book, thriller, crime, horror, friend rec, and judge a book by its cover. This is what my bingo square looks like now. These are all books that I have physically read. Some of the books can apply to multiple genres, so I'm kind of trying to play the odds. I'm putting books in each square that it could possibly fit in and then knocking out books that I feel are a better fit. I don't think any of these books are going to be locked in by the end of the year. Maybe nonfic, but I did just get a slasher nonfic that I am probably going to like more than the one I have in the nonfic. I really don't love Middle of the Night as my mystery. I don't feel like it's strong enough. Um, I think the free space will be fine. My second and more daunting reading challenge that I'm embarking on this year is the 75 Goodreads challenge that me and Priska invented. Basically, Goodreads put out a list of the top 75 thrillers and mysteries of the past 3 years. And we read the list and we're like, wouldn't it be so fun if we read all 75 of those books? Because we thought that top meant best, as in most critically acclaimed or the highest amount of stars, or like maybe like a committee voted on them. No, top meant most popular. And not that I don't think the general public's opinion of things is wrong most of the time, but like, I don't mean to insult the readers over on Goodreads. How do I say this nicely? What if I just move on? We're just gonna move on. We're just gonna move on. This is my first video back. I don't need to make any enemies. But the point is, we went into this list thinking it was gonna be like a bunch of heavy hitters, like good, good, good. No, but we already committed. We made rules. We made spreadsheets. I made a little spinner board. We have a Notion shared slide. Like, we're committed to this. There's no going back. We're doing it. Rules for the Goodreads challenge. We're only allowed to audiobook 10 of the 75 books. You must physically read the other 65. Number 2, you must spin for your book. I created this little spinning wheel. You spin whatever it lands on, you have to do. Or sometimes we'll draw names out of a hat. Like during the fall, I wanted to read a more spooky read, so I got all the spooky looking covers, put them in a hat, and I picked one. Basically, it's like a get what you get. You can't just pick off the list. You kind of like, you get what you get. That one's been flubbed a little bit because I do use Libby. I refuse to pay for a book that I don't think I'm gonna like. So the rule doesn't always work if like the book that I land on has a really long hold. But we wanted to do just to sort of like, you don't get control over the book that you get to read next on the list, but you do get 5 skips. Like if you draw one and you're like, I don't want to read that right now, you can skip it. And then you also get 5 like, I'm not reading that. But if you choose to not read it, the other person does have to read it and voice note you in detail the plot of the book, which I don't see either of us really doing that because we love to shit talk books together. So even if I'm like, this book sucked, she's like, I need to read it so we can shit talk it together. So those are the rules. Since starting this challenge in September of 2025, I have read 11 out of 75 books, which is not good considering it's March. I have only used 2 of my audiobook passes. I used them both on Frida McFadden because I hate her and I refuse to actually read physically any of her books. So I have audiobooked 2 of hers. In addition to the 11 books I've read during this challenge, I did finish 6 others prior to starting this challenge just because I am a big thriller horror fan. So I just happened to read 6 of the other books. So that is 17 books out of 75. Completion of this challenge is not looking very promising. In the interest of being completely honest with you guys, my first video back, this list is not very good. Most of the books that I have finished have sat around a 3, which I know is average, but we embarked on this journey thinking that it would be a bunch of really stellar books. So it's actually been super disappointing, the fact that almost every book that I've read off this list has been like, meh. The ones that have been 4 stars or more are books that I most likely would have picked up myself anyways, or I read prior to this challenge. So I don't feel like this list is helping me discover any new books or new authors aside from maybe like 1 or 2. But I am going to keep trucking because that's the point of a challenge, to challenge yourself. But yeah, so far it's been a little bit disappointing. My thoughts and ratings on all of the books that I've completed for this challenge starting January 1st of this year are going to be in my bi-monthly recap videos that I plan on releasing, but I thought I would do a quick rapid fire of all of the books that I read for this challenge last year, as well as the ones that I finished just before starting this challenge. So, my thoughts on all of the books on this list. Starting with my oldest read back in like 2023-ish, The House Across the Lake by Riley Sager. I gave it 3 stars. This is my lowest rating of every book that I have read so far for this challenge. I'm not shocked that it's Riley. I have a very, very huge love-hate relationship with Riley Sager. I've been saying this forever. It's just something about that man. Love him or hate him, never been mid about a book of his ever. I'm shocked that I didn't rate it lower though, because looking back, I fucking hated this book. But I have transitioned from like Goodreads to Storygraph to Pagebound to Fable like so many times since 2023. I no longer have a review attached to this book. So I don't know what I was thinking when I read it. I know what I think now. It's terrible. Don't read it. But I don't believe in going back and changing my reviews because I believe the person that I was when I read it is the most accurate reflection of how I felt about the book. So it's a 3. Basically, the premise of the book is that we have our female main character. She lives on a lake, and there's a house across the lake with a couple, and she saves the wife from drowning one day, and they become friends. And she suspects some sort of like domestic violence is happening at the house across the lake. And also, the wife is acting like really weird and kind of creepy, and so she's trying to figure out like what happened to this woman, what's happening. It's like a kind of like a soft paranormal vibe. And also the main character's husband died at some point, and that's really important to the plot, but I can't tell you why. I just hated this book because I hate when authors just introduced soft paranormal stuff at the very end of the book, because it gives I have a really great idea, but I don't really know how to execute it. So I'm just going to write the entire book and then blame it on ghosts at the end. Like, it just feels like a cop out. The book felt like a cop out, and I didn't like it whatsoever, and I do not recommend it. Next, we have What Lies in the Woods by Kate Marshall, and this was a 5-star audiobook read that I regret listening to as an audiobook because I feel like I would have somehow loved it even more had I read it physically. So if you're deciding between audiobooking this book or reading it physically, read it physically. A very, very general synopsis of this book is that 3 girls, lifelong besties, put a serial killer away because he attempts to serial kill them. He's life in prison, and the book is taking place decades in the future. And maybe things aren't what they seem. Maybe somebody lied. Maybe little girls doing culty shit in the woods have skeletons in their closet. I don't know. I don't want to tell you too much because I feel like you get the most out of this book knowing absolutely nothing. Just know that I gave it 5 stars. Home is Where the Bodies Are by Geneva Rose. Priska actually just spun for this book. She's in the middle of reading it right now, and when she asked me how I felt about it, I said meh, but more meh good than meh bad, but still just meh. I did give it 3.25 stars, which technically is above average, but aside from the twist ending and like the general plot of the book, I don't remember a single thing at all. I do remember that it was multi POV from the POV of the 3 adult children who are coming back to the mom's house because she just died. So they're doing the whole like getting stuff ready for the funeral, settling the estate, reading of the will. One of them is like a druggie. There's the whole overachiever, underachiever, sibling rivalry, family drama. They're uncovering secrets. There are interspliced chapters of home videos that the mom recorded. So both the characters are watching the home videos, but also we are just seeing the home videos, and secrets are unfolding. Secrets. Just like family drama, family secrets. I saw the twist coming a mile away. I didn't really care for it. I didn't really care for the ending. I didn't really care for the book. The Midnight Feast by Lucy Foley. Hot take. I fucking love Lucy Foley. I didn't know that was a hot take until I saw so many people on Book Talk saying that they don't like Lucy Foley. They don't like her books. They don't like the format. What? I think her books are so refreshing for like the thriller murder mystery space. And maybe it's because I'm somebody who has consumed an exorbitant amount of thrillers and murder mysteries that I find most books in this genre kind of predictable because I've read so many of them that I'm always calling like the twist or the murderer. And I think that because she writes her books in such a complicated way, that it really helps keep me in the book and not in like predictable investigator mode. It keeps me in reader mode. This one, however, is my least favorite of all of her books. I have read her entire discography minus The Paris Apartment. That book is on the 75 challenge, so I will be reading it eventually. That's the last book of hers that I need to read. This one, The Midnight Feast, is by far my least favorite. I will eventually do a Lucy Foley deep dive ranking of every single one of her books once I finish The Paris Apartment. I already know that this one is going to be at the bottom. Basically, she writes all of her books with multi POV, like at least 4 to 6 different characters. And it's that character before the incident and then that character after the incident. But it's all jumbled up. You'll get like an after, a before, an after, before, character. It's all super jumbled up and messy, and you don't know what the incident is. So the best way I can describe it is if you're a fan of White Lotus, I really think you would be a fan of this book because White Lotus, the first episode, like something happens and you don't know how you got there and you're jumping back and forth between the before and the after. That's how she writes her books. There's like some sort of incident, you don't know what it is, you don't know who died, you don't know who went missing, and you're reading the before chapters of like how we got there as well as the after chapters of like how people are reacting to the news and what's happening and everything. This book specifically takes place at like a rich people retreat, very white, very gentrification, very privilege. If I remember all the POVs correctly, we do get a POV from the white woman who's in charge of the retreat. She's very much hated by all of the locals in town. We get a POV from a guest who has a secret. The owner has a secret too. Everybody has a secret. So the owner has a secret, the guest has a secret, she's got like a secret identity. We get a POV from one of the staff members and the husband of the owner who's also like a handyman and he also has a secret. And then there's a POV from like a fifth person, but I don't remember. I think she's just like a random rich woman like at the resort. I don't remember exactly. But basically there's a really big secret and also an urban legend. And I just hated the way that this book ended. I feel like Lucy Foley was trying to dip her toes into kind of like the supernatural world and it came off a little bit cheesy, a little bit unbelievable. I am the first person to say I don't like it when authors have a formula. I don't like it. I feel like it makes them predictable and boring. Freedom McFadden. However, I feel like Lucy's formula is more so about the structure of her books and not about the content of her books. So I've never found a Lucy Foley book more predictable than any other book. I've always found them really enjoyable. This book, I feel like she broke away from her formula a little bit, and that just didn't work for me. I did not like the ending whatsoever. It kind of ruined the entire experience for me. So that's why it's my least favorite Lucy Foley book and why it only got a 3.25, even though I'm a huge fan of this author. She's not above critique. None of my favorite authors are. I would literally recommend any of her other books. The Hunting Party is my favorite. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars, if not a very, very high 4. So if you want to dip your toes into Lucy Foley, I recommend The Hunting Party. Just a Nicest Couple is one of the books that I finished in 2025. It was during my I can't believe I'm still unemployed era, so I'm gonna really knock this stay-at-home wife thing out of the fucking park. So it was just me, my toilet bowl scrubber, my headphones, and this audiobook deep cleaning my entire apartment. I finished this audiobook in literally a day. It's dual POV of a wife whose husband goes missing. I'm pretty sure they have marital problems of some kind. They get into a fight, he leaves, he never comes back, and she's like, where the heck is my husband? The second POV is of that wife's best friend's husband. And him and his wife know more than they're letting on. They're hiding some shit. His wife is currently pregnant. They've had a lot of fertility problems. That plays like a really big role in the story. I really liked the 2 POVs because something would be happening in this POV at the same time as something happening in this POV. So you're like, from chapter to chapter, you're like, oh my God, are they going to get caught? What's going to happen? It's like happening at the same time. And it helps that this POV is the girl, but this one is the husband of the best friend, because not only are the husband and wife hiding stuff, but the wife is also hiding stuff. But we're not in the wife's head, we're in the husband's head. So we don't know what she's hiding. So even though we as the reader know more than both main characters combined, we also don't know enough because we're not in the mind of this character, which I thought was really interesting. I really liked the way things unfolded. I really liked the pacing of the book. And I do remember really liking the ending. I felt like it had a very realistic ending. Like I said, this was an audiobook, so I do think I would have loved it more had I read it physically. That's my problem with audiobooking thrillers, is that I don't have that like nails gripping the paper feeling when I'm reading an audiobook. So anytime I do a thriller mystery audiobook, I regret it and I wish I would have read it physically. I like to reserve audiobooks for more of my like either books with plots I feel I won't care about, or like romance, dark romance, books like that. The Overnight Guest has been my only 5-star read of this entire challenge, and it is still one of my favorite books that I have ever read. Again, I audiobooked it. It was the first book that I finished of 2025. I audiobooked it, and I really wish that I had read it physically because I feel like the emotions would have hit me even harder. Also, it is just a very confusing book to have audiobooked. I had to keep hitting the like reverse 15 seconds because I kept getting lost. It's very easy to get lost in if you're not reading it physically. The reason why I say this audiobook was confusing is because it's just like a whirlwind of information coming at you constantly. It's also multi POV and multi time jump. So it's 3 separate stories that all eventually converge. And the thing that ties all the stories together is the incident. Every small town has an incident that has shocked the people to its core. And the incident in this small town is that way back in the day, 50s or something, I don't remember, about its time periods, but the incident is that this family in a small quiet town gets brutally murdered. 2 little girls escape. It's the daughter of the family that got murdered and her best friend. They escape. They're running away. They get separated, and only the daughter makes it to safety. The best friend missing, and they have not found her. Like missing to this day. It's like a cold case incident for this small town. So you have the first POV, which is first person, and it's modern day. It's the most modern day of the 3 stories. And it's about this true crime writer, I believe, who's writing a story about this incident. How many times am I going to say incident, God? She's at a cabin, it gets snowed in, and she sees 2 people that need to be rescued. So she tries to rescue them, and creepy, bad things happen, secrets are unfolding. Everything comes to head during her POV. It's like the controlling POV. The second POV is the incident. It's right after it happens, I believe, and it's more police procedural of what the aftermath of what happened. However, it is third person omniscient, and you don't know where you are. You just like enter a room in a chapter. Like one chapter you'll be in the police station, and then all of a sudden you're in some random old lady's backyard. So you never know where you are, because you know how most multi POV, the chapter title will be like Cassandra 1907 or like Susie before. This does not have that. You don't know what story you're reading until you start reading it. So that's what made it really confusing, because I would be reading a chapter in like first POV, and then all of a sudden it would switch to third person POV, and I'm like, who the fuck is Mark? Because it also, you just meet all of these people, because you're saying like, how did the police react? How did the deli person react? Like, what's this little story over here that might be important but might not be important? It's just very in cold blood, kind of. You're just like learning things. Trying to uncover the murderer. And then the third story is about a woman and child locked in a basement, very abusive household, and their escape. So that's the third one. And I don't remember if that was first person or like third person limited. I want to say it was first person from the point of view of the child, though. So lots of information, meeting lots of people. It was so confusing. And because it was so confusing, it was kind of hard to predict the end. I don't think I predicted one of the twists, but I didn't predict the main twist because I was just fighting for my life trying to understand what was happening, but in the best way. Like, it wasn't an overarching amount of information. It was just the right amount that I was like, give me more. I wish I was there. It was just very complex, very amazing. My audiobook, 2 times speed, finished it in a day. Still think about it. It's literally on my Pagebound, like Letterboxd 5. My Pagebound 5. It's on there. I love it. Reckless Girls by Rachel Hawkins was my first official spin of this challenge, and halfway through reading this book is what made it clear to me that I was, in fact, not reading a best thrillers list. I was reading a popular thrillers list. This book is, made it very clear. The book is multi POV, multi time jump, but you're mostly following this one girl. Her mom dies. She's sad. She meets a boy. They start dating. He has a boat. She runs away with them. They're going to travel the world together. Shocker, he has no money. They stop in an island town to get jobs to make money. These two rich girls come up to them and they're like, sail us to this remote, deserted, haunted private island for $1 million. And they go, yes. Couldn't be me. So now it's our main girl, her boyfriend, and two strange rich girls going to a private haunted island. There's 2 people already there, a rich couple. It's okay though. The 6 of them get along great. They're having literally the time of their lives, partying, drinking, eating, whoop-de-doo. Now, the premise of the book, I thought, was gonna be more Yellow Jackets, Midsummer, culty type shit. People get trapped on an island, they start eating each other. No. They do get trapped on an island because at some point another guy comes. He's creepy and weird. They don't like him. They like offend him or something, and so he destroys their like phones. So they're trapped. And you're like, oh my god, they're trapped on this island. Whatever. They literally get in contact with somebody within 30 minutes. They had like an emergency sat phone hidden somewhere, and they're like, we need help, and they're like, we'll be there in a day. So the illusion of being trapped literally lasted a page. That pissed me off. They were not trapped. No stakes. The island is supposed to make you do like crazy shit. No, the drugs did because they took drugs. They took drugs, woke up, and they find. Oh, yeah, because. That's a spoiler. Give me 1 second. Okay. Pre spoilers. Crazy shit happens. Crazy shit island book. And now I'm gonna give you a bunch of spoilers because this book was so dumb. I don't want anybody else to read it. I don't hate it that badly, actually. That was mean. I just want to spoil it. So this is your warning. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. One of the girls sleeps with the main character's boyfriend on their boat in their bed. And the main character is so insufferable. I could not be me. I would not handle these situations the way she does. One, I would not have even gone to this island with these strangers. She just walks out of the boat and she goes and she sleeps with the husband of the other couple that's there after the wife has been nothing but hospitable to her, giving her booze and food and life advice. She sleeps with her husband to get back at her boyfriend. Who's that getting back at? Nobody. He doesn't care about you. That pissed me off so much. So then they do the drugs, and then they find the creepy guy dead, and her boyfriend dead, and the other girl, the girl that slept with her boyfriend, drowned. And so basically we learn that the wife and the other friend that were on the boat, not who they seem to be. They have actually been in cahoots this whole time. The plan was to lure the husband and the boyfriend to this island to kill them and then run away because the husband got the wife's mom. The husband's dad got the wife's mom sent to jail because he seduced her into being a drug mule. So, hatred. The friend, the friend who slept with the boyfriend, she had killed in a drunk driving accident the other friend's boyfriend. So basically, it was like a revenge murder thing. And I can feel my body giving out from like just not caring about this book whatsoever. Basically, it all culminates to like a showdown match on the beach. You have the two vigilante killers getting ready to kill the husband, but then the main character stumbles upon it, and they're like, "Come, come, be a." They like rob men. I don't know what that's called. Where you're like really hot and you like rob men. They're like that. That's like there's a word for it for women who do that. They do that. So they're trying to convince the main character to do it. And then the wife goes to like shoot the guy, and for some reason the friend like trips in front of the gun and dies. And so then the wife's like, "It's okay, main character girl. It can still be me and you." And main character girl somehow gets the gun and shoots her because she's a good guy. But then she's like, "That boat is full of money and drugs," shoots the husband, steals the boat, and the book ends with her in a bar seducing another woman to Bonnie and Clyde rob men with her. I feel like it was meant to be very like girl boss empowering, but it just didn't hit. It was bad. In hindsight, I should have rated this lower than a 3.25, but it was my first book of this challenge, and I was still full of hope. So I guess I was being nice. The Woman in the Library, 3.25 stars. I really don't want to explain this one. I'm just gonna read my script because I hated this book. Um, Four people in a library. Random person dies. Sort of locked room mystery, only it's not a locked room mystery, but because the four of them can see each other, they're like, obviously, none of you committed the murder. Let's be best friends. And then they sort of try and like Scooby Doo solve the murder. That's the plot. Hated it. I think looking back, I should be meaner with my stars. I agree with that. I'll do a video on how I star books because I know why this got a 3.25, but in hindsight, I wish I gave it a 2 purely because the female main character is so unsufferable and naive that it was painful to be in her head. That's very true. This script is very accurate. There were also quite a few plot holes. There were quite a few plot holes, actually. I called the twist. I did call the twist. But the plot holes made the person who committed the murder not believable. That's very true. There's like this one glaring plot hole that never gets resolved that I'm like, that plot hole alone proves that the person who committed the murder didn't commit the murders, though. It never gets solved. And then if the person who committed the murders did commit the murder, then the plot hole would have made them the most diabolical person in the world. But it never gets addressed. And that pissed me off. Anyways. Also, this is technically a story within a story. The book opens with a letter from this like friend slash fan of the author who is writing the book that we are reading. So the book that we are reading with the four friends in the library, fake. It's not the actual book. The book is actually the letters or the emails. I think they're emails. In which the fan is like slowly devolving over the course of these letters. And I feel like this would have been a really cool concept, except for the fact that the letters end before the book does, which doesn't make any sense. And also, the last letter makes no sense in the context of what happens to the fan. So, like, so basically, the email is to the author being like, "Hey, you said you wanted some help with your book. I would be willing to give you feedback on the chapters." So then she writes a chapter and sends it to him. And then we get another letter where they're like, "I liked that chapter. Here's some feedback." And the reason why is because I think the author is like in Australia, but the book takes place in New York or something, and the friend is in New York, so they're like doing, because it's during COVID is happening, so she can't travel to do research, so the friend is like doing research for her. So like the book takes place at a specific library, and the guy's like, hey, like your exit's on the wrong side of the building, there's no fire system or whatever. So he's giving him feedback. He's giving the author feedback. I think it's a guy and the author is a girl. And so then we get another chapter, and then it's more feedback. And slowly over the course of the letters, he's like devolving. He's overstepping with his opinions. We find out that he's racist. And to like get back at him for being racist, she like purposely writes the next chapter in a specific way to like take all of his racist feedback and like flip it back. I loved that detail. She was just like, oh, you think only black people can wear hoodies? Every single character in this book is now wearing a hoodie. It was so funny. I actually cried laughing. That was the only good part of the book. The thing that did bother me is, since technically this book is being written in real time, things would change chapter to chapter as she was like editing her work. So it didn't make for a consistent read. I also didn't like the way that letters ended. It made no sense for the way the character was devolving for the letters to end the way that they did. The book itself ends on a really weird cliffhanger that made no sense and came out of nowhere. The book literally just ends. No resolution, weird random cliffhanger. It honestly felt like the actual in real life author of this book hit a deadline and just submitted their book. Like, oh no, I'm out of time. I'm just going to submit this book, and ended both plots poorly. Like, I'm just like really pissed off with this book because the concept was really cool. It was just not executed correctly. Like, the idea of a book within the book and a book being edited by a like fan mail over the course of that's like so cool, and it just wasn't executed good. Also, because the book that you're reading, the library book, is really boring, and the main character is insufferable and does so many things that I'm like, you, how are you alive? How have you survived this long? You're so stupid. Didn't like the book. Should have rated it lower than 3.25 stars. I feel like something was in the water when I was reading these books because I was being way too nice. The Drowning Woman is another book that I read where the premise seemed really cool, and then it just kind of fell apart at the end. No offense to Goodreads, or maybe all offense, because like fuck Amazon, but this list is really bad. And it's not even that the books on the list are bad. The books on the list are fine, but I don't think any of the books on the list warrant having made this list. This book is about a homeless woman who saves a rich woman from drowning while she's trying to escape her abusive husband. They become fast friends. They hatch a plot to get her away from her abusive husband. Secrets, lies, yada yada yada. For this one, I don't want to give too much away, mostly because I genuinely did like the way we learned information over the course of the book, and I went into this book not knowing very much aside from what I just told you. A homeless woman saves a rich woman, and I think you do get more out of the book not knowing anything about it. And there's not much to get out of the book, so whatever you can get out of it, I encourage you to go in as blind as possible. I feel like I enjoyed the book like 75% of the way, and then at some point it just stopped being believable, and it just got a little bit like girl boss cheesy. Like the ending, you could tell they were trying to be like girl boss, and it not believable, and I just no, I didn't like it. I did really like the relationships. I did really like the stakes. I did think the author wove the stories together really well because it does shift POV. It's like one whole part is from one person's POV, and then it switches, and then it switches again. And I think she did a good job of tying all of the stories together so it was a bit more seamless. I did call one of the bigger twists, not the biggest twist, but I was happy that that twist happened, so I didn't even care that I had called it, honestly. I just wouldn't recommend this book. I wouldn't not recommend this book, but I wouldn't go out of my way to recommend this book. Flicker in the Dark. Surprisingly, a very good read, actually. It was really good. I really enjoyed the narrative style. I really enjoyed just how the book unfolded. This book is from the POV of our main character. When she was a little girl, her father was arrested for the murder of several young girls. One of the girls that he murdered was sort of like a surrogate older sister to her, so she carried the guilt of that girl's death around, and also just suffered so much PTSD from being the daughter of a serial killer in such a small town. Now, many years have passed. She's an adult woman now. She is a therapist. She is engaged to a seemingly very good man, but shockers, the murders are starting up again. She believably has a small psychotic break over this, and she, of course, she's trying to figure out what the hell is happening. Is it a copycat? Does her dad have like an accomplice? Like, is he in jail sending letters to somebody to continue the murders? Did they get the wrong guy? Like, what is happening? She gets wrapped up in the investigation not only as like an amateur detective but also as a suspect, because when I say she has a small psychotic break, she has a small psychotic break. She acts so stupid, and to the point where the detectives think that she's the one who committed all of the murders. That's not a spoiler. That's literally within the first like chapter where she finds out the murders are happening. The detectives are like, is it you? I just thought that was so funny and honestly so believable. I enjoyed all of the twists of this book. I think the author wrote the female main character in such a believable way, just the way that she dealt with the trauma and her like inability to trust anybody, especially men, is just hilariously like so on brand. Like, I felt like this was the most believable example of child of a serial killer PTSD story that I've read in a while. I was like, I see that. I see that for her. Overall, it was insanely good. I think the ending was very believable. Sometimes I feel like thriller mysteries have like a tendency to just neatly tie up the end of a story with like a neat bow. Like, you have a really, really tragic book, and then they're like, fairy tale ending, she ran away with the prince. And it's like, no, actually, that's not what would happen. This one had a very believable ending that I was like, that's what would happen. Yeah, I believe that. And it was just really good. I super enjoyed it. And I do think that I enjoyed it so much that I will be picking up more books from this author specifically, because I just really enjoyed her writing style and like living in her world and the way she described everything that was happening. Last one, God of the Woods. I feel like God of the Woods has been everywhere since I read this book. Like, not just on book talk videos, but just random influencer unboxing and like book hauls, or just like in the background of random videos. Like, this book has just been everywhere. In fact, two of my favorite booktube creators had this book in their like monthly reviews recently. They both had drastically different opinions on this book from each other and from me. So I guess it's like a quite polarizing book as well. This was one of the last books that I read of 2025, right before I hit my yearly winter reading slump. So maybe I'm just being too nice, but when I read the book, I really enjoyed it, and looking back, I still really enjoyed it. So I feel like I'm in the minority here, but I quite liked this book. I'm going to read from my notes again because this book is kind of confusing plot wise, and my brain is dead. So I don't want to get something wrong, because this is a book on the list that I would recommend you read. So I don't want to misinform you. This book is multi POV, multi time jump. I don't think I've read a single POV book or a single time period book in so long. Please, somebody recommend one to me, please. I feel like every book that I've talked about today has been multi POV, multi time jump of some kind. Anyways, it's confusing because it took me a really long time to get into the flow of this book, because you get introduced to so many characters, so many names. And I'm going to admit this to you right now because we're best friends. I am really bad with names and dates. I have to like read a name multiple times for me to remember that they exist, and dates do not stick in my brain. So, yeah, fair warning if you're like me. Many narrators, and it's not like Lucy Foley where it was multi-narrator, but before after. It's like Sydney 1973, Sydney 1962, Aria 1962, Aria 1985. Like, it's hyper. There's also it's like Grayson May of 1955, Grayson December of 1950. I got really confused. But once I got it, it was fine. I just had to do a lot of flipping. Back to the book. The main plot is that a camper goes missing. The camper is the daughter of the very rich family at the top of the mountain who owns the camp. She's also the sister of a little boy who went missing years ago who was never found. We jump back and forth between the two instances of missing children. It does take place in like the 1940s or 50s, which I kept forgetting. So the behavior of the women was really appalling to me. But then I'd be like, wait, it's the 1940s. And I'd have to reread everything that I read because I was reading it with way too much modern day judgment. Like, literally, at one point, a girl, like the main mom, gets married off at 14 to like a 40-year-old. And I was like, it's not okay.
Even in the context of the 1940s, marrying off a 14-year-old to like a 50-year-old man, and I might be like hyperbolizing the ages a little bit, but that's basically what happened. And so my modern day stomach was like, what the fuck? But then I was like, okay, 1940s, still not great, but it's a little bit more understandable. There's also like a running critique of the way the missing girl dresses, because they're like, she dresses so black and weird, and why does she do that with her hair? But I'm reading her character description and I'm like, guys, she's just goth. But like, oh, I guess goths technically didn't exist yet. So I kept having to, like, it just like, I don't think the author did enough to really nail down what time period you were in, because you're jumping like 3 different time periods, and I don't think the author did a good enough job to really nail down what time period you're in, because it kept taking me out of the book, because I was like, what? Why would you say that? But it was the 40s. Anyways, so the book is like 90% police procedural and like 10% family drama, and I really liked the dynamics between the rich family and the staff, both of the manor, like the big mansion, and of the camp. Oh yeah, I felt so bad for the mom of the 2 children who went missing. Like, it's classic example of wife who's not good enough for her rich husband. Like, rich husband hates his wife. She's only living for her children. She is an alcoholic. She is most likely on Kool-Aids, Quaaludes. She just deserved more. And every single chapter I read of her, knife to the heart, twisted. It was really sad and pathetic. Really sad and pathetic. I will say, hated the ending. I will agree with everybody who hated the ending. Hated the ending. It is the most unbelievable ending. And when I say unbelievable, I mean literally would never, ever, ever happen. Unfreaking believable. It could have, I feel like the believability could have been solved a little bit if maybe the ages of the kids were like aged up a little bit. Then maybe I'd be like, okay, suspension of belief, small town, whatever, like, okay, I get it. But no. The ending was, this book probably would have been 5 stars, or at least like a 4.5, had the ending been better. I took off a whole star simply because the entire ending of the book was like, what? The ending of the other storyline, though, of the little boy who went missing, A+, fucking gold, heart ripped out of my chest. The ending for the missing boy, 10 out of 10. The ending for the missing girl is the one that I was like, absolutely not. One creator that I saw did critique that they didn't like this book because they felt like nothing was happening, and I do have to blatantly disagree with that, because I do feel like that is just the vibe of a police procedural. It's a lot of like collecting clues, interviewing witnesses. You are in the POV of one of the detectives. She is a woman. It is the 70s, so there's a lot of like gender dynamic there. You're in the POV of multiple suspects, so it's a lot of like hiding things, secrets, stories that aren't related to the main plot, like kind of unfolding. Like, it just gave police procedural, and I feel like it all unfolded quite adequately for the genre that I felt that it was. It really is just rich people doing rich people shit. Definitely not action-packed, but I feel like the pacing was really good, and considering the plot is 2 separate children going missing, I feel like it was handled rather well. Okay, those are all of my 2026 reading challenges, as well as a not so rapid fire of all of the books I read for my 75 challenge prior to bringing IGB back from the dead. Please feel free to play along. I would love to see the books that you put in your bingo squares. I would love to hear your opinions of the books on the 75 list. Maybe I'm just being too harsh. Maybe I'm a hater. Maybe I'm mean. So if you liked any of these books, or you read them and you decide that you like them, please let me know why. I love to debate books. I love to discuss bad books. Also, feel free to comment some of your 2026 reading challenges, reading goals. I love to steal, so maybe I'll get inspired by something you say in the comments and try it in 2027. I will also be linking my Fable and Pagebound accounts down in the caption below if you guys want to connect. But aside from that, I'm done here. This video has made me feel so many emotions. I feel like I've both read way too many books and am still somehow super far behind, but I guess that is the curse of the never-ending TBR. I am hungry and tired, and I will see you in the next chapter.